Hi everyone, this is Dr. Abidemi and welcome back to class. And in this session, we'll be taking a look at monopolistic competition. And so far, we've discussed perfect competition, we've done monopoly. Now we are taking a look at monopolistic competition. So let's take a look at what it is. Most real-world markets are competitive, but not perfectly competitive, because firms in this market have some power to set their prices, as monopolies do. We call this type of market monopolistic competition. Monopolistic competition is a market structure in which, okay, so let's take a look at some characteristics. We have large number of firms compete, okay? So because you have some elements, large number of firms competing, then we could say collusion is impossible. That means firms coming together to become one will be quite difficult because of the large number of competitors that you have. Firms in a monopolistic competition would like to be able to conspire to fix a higher price, called collusion. However, because the number of firms in monopolistic competition is large, coordination is difficult and collusion is not possible. So in a monopolistic competitive market, collusion is impossible due to the large number of firms or players in that industry. Number two, each firm produces a differentiated product. The firm practices product differentiation if it makes a product that is slightly different from the product of competing firms. A differentiated product is one that is a close substitute, not a perfect substitute. So if you take a look at perfect substitute, it means that you can completely replace one good with another. For close substitute, you cannot completely disregard the other product, except that other product becomes so expensive and unaffordable. Okay? For example, see here it says, some people are willing to pay more for one variety of product. So when its price rises, the quantity demanded of that variety decreases, but it does not necessarily decrease to zero. For example, Adidas, Asics, Deodara, Etonic, Fila, New Balance, Nike, Puma, and Reebok all make differentiated running shoes. If the price of Adidas running shoes rises and the prices of the other shoes remain constant, Adidas sells fewer shoes and the other producers sell more. However, Adidas shoes does not disappear unless the price rises by a large enough amount. Okay, number three, firms compete on product quality, price, and marketing. Okay, firms compete on quality and marketing. We refer to this as non-price competition. So in a monopolistic competitive market, aside competing on price, they also compete on quality and marketing. Right? And you can see that easily in the sports industry. Okay, sport industry, sport apparel industry, their footwear. Their products are differentiated, and if you look at their marketing strategies, genius. Okay, what are they doing that for? They are competing. They are trying to attract as most customers as possible. Okay, so they can control, they can compete on price, they can also compete on product quality and marketing. Number four, firms are free to enter and exit the industry. Okay, just like in a perfect, just like perfect competition. And there is perfect information. Now, let's take a look at short-run and long-run equilibrium under monopolistic competition. The graph of the short-run and long-run equilibrium in monopolistic competition is similar to the short-run conditions in monopoly and long-run conditions in monopoly. So we've talked about that. The slight difference is that the demand curve or average revenue curve is price elastic. Price elastic simply means that consumers are very sensitive to price. Okay, in the sense that if a little change in price could adequately decrease the quantity demanded of a good. All right, so price elastic simply means the consumers are very sensitive to price. And so the difference, major difference between monopolistic competition, the graph, and that of monopoly is that the monopolistic graph is more price elastic. We'll take a look at that. Okay, so further questions. In monopolistic competition, we can say there is no allocative efficiency, productive efficiency, and dynamic efficiency, just like we did in monopoly. However, when we compare monopolistic competition with other types of market structures, it looks like the best. This is because there is a decent competition in the market and consumers are not totally exploited. Okay? Because there's competition, you can have some elements of innovation, which is able to uh, reduce the welfare loss for consumers. All right? You have some innovations within the market, and so and there's competition. And when there's competition, each firm is trying to ensure that is it controls the market share. But for monopoly, there's no competition, all right? And so we could say it does what it likes, of course, based on the country's regulatory framework. But in terms of imperfect information, its product designs, it decides because there is no competition that will say, I'm going to put that firm on its toes. Okay, so only monopolistic competition looks like the best because there's decent competition and consumers are not really exploited. And when there's decent competition, prices will be lower than in a monopoly. This means that consumers will have higher surplus when compared to a monopoly. In addition, there are differentiated goods available in the market, which is preferable to having homogeneous goods as compared to perfect competition. Consumers have different tastes and they might be willing to pay more for differentiated products. Let us examine the short run and long run graphs in figures 9.11 and 9.12. Okay, the only difference is that the graph, the demand curve, are more elastic. Okay, and this is what I mean right here. If you compare it to that of monopoly, this is more elastic. This is more elastic. All right, so that's the difference, but the graph remains the same, whether for the supernormal profit, whether for um, zero economic profit or normal profit or economic loss, they are the same. What about the long run? Well, one of the, I said in the monopoly, right? Um, in the long run, the firm can make, especially in the monopoly, because there's no competition, the firm can make a supernormal profit. And in some cases, it can make a normal profit. But for monopolistic competition, because there is competition, okay, the firm will make a normal profit. And that is where AR equals to AC. Okay, AR equals to AC. All right, so this graph can also be for the graph of monopoly in the long run when the firm makes a normal profit. So for monopoly, the firm can make super normal profit in the long run and can also make a normal profit. But for monopolistic uh, competition, the firm makes a normal profit or zero economic profit. You see here it says, in the long run, companies in the monopolistic competition still produce at a level where marginal cost and marginal revenue are equal. However, the demand curve will have shifted to the left due to the company's entry in the market. The shift in the demand curve is a result of a reduced demand for an individual company's product due to increased competition. Such an action reduces economic profits depending on the magnitude of entry of new players. Individual companies will no longer be able to sell their product at above average cost. Okay? And so these are the review questions. What are the characteristics of a monopolistic competitive market? Explain the concept of allocative efficiency, dynamic efficiency, and productive efficiency in a monopolistic competitive market. Explain the profit and losses of a monopolistic competitive market in the short and long run. So in the short run, the graphs are basically the same for monopoly and monopolistic competition in the short run. For economic profit, for zero economic profit or normal profit and economic loss. The difference is that the curve, the demand curve, is more price elastic, meaning that it's more like this. Okay, not like this. It's like this. Because consumers are very sensitive to price. So you have the same area, which is economic profit. Okay, so, and that is that for monopolistic competition. So in our next class, we're going to take a look at oligopoly, okay, and duopoly, and which will make us round up, at least in terms of market structure, we're going to round that off. However, for oligopoly, in subsequent lectures, okay, we will deal with what we call game theory. All right, so I'll see you in my next class. Bye.